Can you believe that some French journalists are fueling the jihadist attacks in the Sahel? What do you think should be done to them when caught? Well, we are going to find out for ourselves because prosecutors in junta-led Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger have launched investigations against French journalist and researcher Wasam Nasser, accusing him of being an apologist for terrorism over his analysis of jihadist attacks. We will also be telling you more about the French spy Ibrahim Traore arrested. But before we continue, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the New Tourist channel to get first-hand information on all that is happening in the Sahel. Wasam Nasser is a senior research fellow at the Soufan Center, focusing on jihadist dynamics in the Middle East and Africa and European responses. He is a French journalist who has been monitoring jihadist groups for more than a decade for the French news outlet France 24, in French, English, and Arabic. He has conducted several interviews on this topic. On September 25th, prosecutors in Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso began an inquiry against the French journalist and researcher for allegedly apologizing for terrorism and complicating alleged terrorist crimes. Why is he being persecuted? Nasser provided a well-informed analysis of a rare and deadly terrorist incident that occurred on September 17 in Bamako, the capital of Mali. The prosecution claimed he had communication with the attackers and that they had given him real-time updates on their whereabouts, goals, and death toll. During a press conference on September 25th, Manzo Hadaza, the deputy prosecutor of Niger, claimed that Nasser had also made remarks that amount to blatant acts of publicity and support of the terrorists. Prosecutors from the judicial divisions on terrorism in Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso all issued the same statement, apparently in coordination, aired on their national televisions late on that same day. Nasser has said that these persecutors are trying to intimidate anyone still contradicting their storytelling about security and control. He also said the investigation by the 3 West African countries is a clear attack on journalism. We should all have a thought about all journalists and civil society activists who are surviving under the rule of those juntas. They are the ones who need support, he added. This is a clear note that Nasser does not support the military takeovers in the Sahel. So, does this mean that he is biased in his reports, or is he not just accurate? This should not come as a surprise to you, because Nasser works for the French, and we all know the agenda France has for the Sahel. External powers frequently use media influence and other tactics to try and sway public opinion and policy in high-stakes geopolitical regions like the Sahel. Critics have accused France, a former colonial power with strong ties to the Sahel, of manipulating media narratives to further its influence over nations such as Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali. Journalists are disseminating false information to further France's objectives in the Sahel. We should note that Nasser's employer, France 24, is also suspended in all 3 countries over its coverage of the insurgency. Mali suspended France-based TV5 Monde for 3 months for not taking into account the version of the Malian army in a broadcast regarding the deaths of at least 15 civilians in drone strikes in the northern Tinzé-Ayouétin region. Burkina Faso also suspended the broadcaster for 6 months on June 18. Malian authorities permanently suspended broadcasts of France 24 television and RFI radio in 2022. LCI, another French television channel, was suspended in July for 2 months. These suspensions, and now Nasser, who is under investigation, tells us that these military leaders would not permit the French to disseminate false information through media outlets. We should note that this is not the first time Traore is facing journalists. Captain Ibrahim Traore made a shocking announcement in July that he had conscripted a journalist against his will at a time when 4 media workers were missing. Reporters Without Borders has called on the authorities to stop using these cruel measures, which infringe upon the Burkinabe people's right to information. Shortly after making an address to the Burkinabe public on July 11, Captain Ibrahim Traore announced, "There is a journalist who was recently conscripted because, since 2023, he has spent his time lying." In addition to serving as a warning to media professionals, the military leader's statement confirmed that a journalist had been conscripted into the army. This journalist was said to be Aishiana Serge Ulan, the editor of the fortnightly El Leviment, who was abducted on June 24 by people claiming to be from the National Intelligence Agency. Note that there have been more than 19 abductions since March 2023. Most of these abductees remain unaccounted for. At least a dozen activists, journalists, and opposition politicians were called up in November last year to participate in the campaign to recapture territory from armed Islamist groups that control roughly half the country. So, if you cross Traore, be ready to go to war to protect your country. Take that Nasser is found guilty. What do you think would be his punishment? France is trying to destabilize the Sahel. Are they not tired? Just some days ago, it was reported that a French soldier who had been sent to Burkina Faso to protect the country turned out to be spying on the country after receiving suspicious information. The French authorities denied the allegations as usual and claimed they were baseless and without legal merit. Since the recent wave of coups, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger have been on a path of diplomatic retreats from France. The military leaders have made a conscious effort to separate Burkina Faso from France. This recent case demonstrates how French journalists are more of a threat than informants. Damien, a former French legionnaire who is now a security consultant, was detained by Burkina Faso's national police on August 12, 2024, in Ouagadougou on suspicion of espionage. This arrest served as a sobering reminder of the West's continued meddling in Africa, long after colonial rule ended. Damien's arrest, alongside the discovery of sensitive information about Burkina Faso's security situation, reveals a broader narrative of Western manipulation cloaked under the guise of economic cooperation and security support. Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso have for more than a decade battled an insurgency fought by armed groups, including some allied with Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State group. Following military coups in all three nations in recent years, the ruling military leaders have turned to Russian instructors. Moscow is welcoming the military governments, offering them help with information operations, diplomatic backing, and security assistance. After Mali's second military coup, Russian military advisors were deployed in the nation in late 2021. Moscow has provided the nation with a strong detachment of mercenaries to fight Islamist groups, primarily through the Wagner Group, which is now known as Afar Corps. It made weapons deliveries in the middle of 2022. However, the insurgency is spreading and Mali's security situation keeps becoming worse. How will the insurgency not spread when we have journalists fueling it? Moving away from all this, Burkina Faso's government recently said that it had foiled several attempts to destabilize the country led by a former high-ranking army official who previously seized power. The ultimate plan was to take out Burkina Faso's messiah, Ibrahim Traore, in an assassination attempt that was thwarted according to the Burkinabe government. The leader of this foiled attempt was no other than Lieutenant Colonel Paul Henry Santiago Damiba, who was ousted from power in 2022. Several people had been arrested in connection with the plot, including Ahmed Kinda, a former commander of the country's special forces. Traore is receiving attacks from all over but still able to attend to all of these matters. The man is indeed a strong man. The investigation of Nasser by these military leaders for his analysis of jihadist activity underscores the tension between press freedom and national security in the Sahel region. The surveillance of journalists covering jihadist movements raises questions about media freedom, government openness, and the right to independent reporting as these nations struggle with the menace of extremism. The question remains, how can Sahelian governments strike a balance between protecting their nations and allowing freedom of the press? Should journalists reporting on sensitive topics, such as jihadist movements, face scrutiny or protection? Let us know what you think in the comments below. Do not forget to like this video and subscribe to the New Tourist channel. Turn on notifications too so you get notified whenever we upload videos like this. Thanks for watching and see you in our next video.